Hey YouTubers, I'm going to try to get some shooting done today with one of my Hasselblad kits. What I'm shooting is, hopefully you can see this, this is a 2-on-F. This is a focal plane body, top speed of 1,000th of a second, and on it I have mounted the 110 millimeter f2, which is a crazy fast lens in the Hasselblad lineup. I've talked about it a bit before. And what I've got loaded in here, which is fine for a really bright day like today, is I've got some Fuji Acros 100 that I'm going to be shooting at 50. So the exposure index I'm using is 50, so I'm going to be overexposing by a stop. The reason for that is it's crazy sunny out here. As you can see, I'm squinting. And so it's very contrasty. And if you overexpose and underdevelop, it helps you to compress the tonal range of the negatives, as long as you're shooting in a contrasty environment. So I do that a lot. Underdevelopment means for me about 20% of development time cut off for each stop that I overexpose. So you can see on the back of the camera that I've written what I'm using. It's Acros 100, and you see that little 50 down there. That tells me that I shot this at an EI of 50. And what I hope to get done today is a bit of stranger portrait shooting. I'm in downtown Littleton. It's one of my typical haunts. And, you know, you never know for me if I'm going to get anything or not, because I may turn out not to be in the mood or see anyone that has kind of the look that I like to try to get in my photos. So, you know, I just walk around and see what I see. And if I don't take pictures of people, then oftentimes I'll just take typical urban landscape type photos. So we'll see what happens. Here's my light meter. So as I said, I'm overexposing by a stop. So that's why my meter is set at 50. And generally what I do is I just kind of take a reading. I use incident metering a lot. This is set up for incident metering at the moment. This would be for reflective metering. You can't really see the cell, I'm afraid, but it's right here. And you slide this over the dome. This white dome kind of converts it to incident metering. And I use that because that measures the amount of light hitting a scene as opposed to the amount reflecting off the scene. And for me, it gives me a better, generally accurate result in my experience. So that's one technique I use. Now, one thing I like to do is to take a test reading. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to hit this button. I usually hit it twice because this meter is a touch unreliable. Sometimes the first time it doesn't get the actual reading that it will if I hit it the second time. As you can see, now what I do is I match the meter or the needle up. It moves like this. And then I can take the EV reading off of the meter, which right now is at 14. So I'm going to set the Hasselblad up for an EV of 14. It's a little hard for me to show, but try to get it into the sun just right. Here are the EV settings, and I'm just going to turn one of my exposure rings. So what I need to do is get that needle onto a 14 any way necessary, shutter speed or aperture. Now that it's set, I can use the interlock that you can see to the right of the f2 mark on the lens, and I can change my aperture and shutter speed at once, which is really convenient. So I usually like to get set up like this to start. Now on a super bright day like this, an EV of 14 It's not giving me a very big aperture at the top shutter speed of this camera. It shoots top shutter speed as 1,000th of a second. So while I might like to get an f2.8 aperture today, I'm not going to make it because I would need to increase my shutter speed to 1/2000th of a second, and this body just doesn't go there. So I'm going to have to live with f4 if I'm in bright sunlight today, and that's one reason I like to carry the 2000 FCW, because it goes to a 2,000th of a second. But I got this camera today, so that's fine. f4 still has very shallow depth of field in medium format, so I won't be suffering. What you're looking at now is the view through my Hasselblad's viewfinder of a subject I'm going to shoot. It's difficult to really show the whole frame because Hasselblad shoots square, of course. I'm trying to fit in that mannequin and this bicycle, and you can see we have this really bright contrasty light. And here are the negatives from the day's shooting. Of course, there are some shots on this roll that were from a prior outing. So I only think I took 6 shots today. These ones at the bottom are the older ones. Negatives look pretty good. I think my back might have a little bit of a light leak. So in this one, I think I'm seeing a bit of light leak issue, but I'm not sure whether that's just sort of the way I'm shooting this, and that probably is it. Anyway, looking forward to letting these dry and getting them scanned.